Good evening. So here's an update on Arch-Mage, Gandalf, Wizard, whatever you guys want to call it. I'm calling it Arch-Mage. So I've straightened out the hat, which has been bothering me a bit. It still needs a little bit of straightening here and off into this distance. The underside also needs to be worked on. But you can see how I've structured the hair. I tried to get it to flow in little curls here and there, as hair would be. Some of this needs to be stretched out and cut clean and so on. But I have a lot of the hair coming off the side of the head. This is the ear, and it will be showing depth in addition to clumps of hair and curls of hair and strands of hair as well. But for the most part, I wanted to get a lot of flow going. Flow in here, off the face, curling a bit, coming off of the mouth. This is obviously not correct here just yet, but I needed to determine how deep the face was going to go prior to cutting too much of this here. So as I've determined, I've got a lot of the flow of the hair here where I pretty much want it. A lot of work needs to be done to clean it up, but you can see that it flows off and to the left, and then it comes off and goes to the right. I have some of the back hair coming in now and off to the shoulder here. The shoulder is still a little too square on top. I'll have to round it a bit as well. You also see that I cut out some of the staff. The staff will have a kind of round crystal here in the center. I'll also make it look wood-like, certainly. It'll have grain and such. You can see that the eyebrows here are still far too large, but that's because one of the rules I pretty much stand by these days is even though you're pretty sure you do not need it, that's no reason to cut it. So I always leave it in place until I'm absolutely certain. So on this side, it goes all the way down to the head because I just don't know where I'm going to want to cut it at some point. So the forehead here also needs to go back at an angle so that the nose can creep down a little bit more. The beginning of the forehead needs to dip in and then up, so that would essentially force the forehead back as well. But the face here at this level, which is correct now, or more or less correct, it'll be rounded here as well and go up a bit. But this facial region, the eye, of course, will also go very deep. So that's just a place marker for the most part. But the face here is now good at this depth. So a lot of the nose will come down as well. When the nose comes down, then I can bring in the forehead, rather push down the forehead, put lines in it. I can also then cut the eyebrows down and get it slanted in this angle as well. So now that I really have this here, I can bring this down and everywhere else down at the right angles. Then when that's done, I can bring the mustache and the upper lip back and then probably cut a little more on the bottom lip as well, bringing a little bit of hair and so on. Then I can finish off the hair here and pretty much everywhere else. So some of this hair will be cut down, at least in depth, so that it's not as thick as it is here, because none of this hair is very thick, so it doesn't really make sense to do that. Either that or I can put a lot more grooves in here to show that there's a lot more hair there than, I don't know, it looks almost like tentacles at this point, so it really does need to be made more strand-like. So you can also see that I've brought in the hand. So this was quite difficult because this thumb, and I can show you what happened. So when I was thinking of this, because it's, you know, a 2D picture, I was thinking he was holding it like this. And I could never really get, I think you're going to see it the right way, but I could never really see how he'd get his thumb in that position and his finger up in a higher position. So I just thought and thought and thought, and finally I determined that he was holding the pipe like this from the bottom. And when he holds it from the bottom, then you can tell that this finger and this thumb, it's possible to get to that position. So once I determined this, rather than this, everything started to make sense. So if this is sitting in the base of this pipe is sitting in the palm of his hand, or rather it's aimed at the palm of his hand, then this finger and all the rest of these fingers make much more sense. Now I just need to determine what this thumb looks like. This thumb is correct up here now, but I believe that the actual thumbnail of the thumb is something like this. And if it's something like that, then I'm a bit thrown off at the moment. It's the challenge of carving, so I'll work it out at some point. I'll have to determine what to do here. I'm pretty sure that this would go quite a bit deeper, but I need to determine that rather than leaving it. I can't just leave it. It's not correct. So at some point this will curve in as well, allowing that corner to look like completely gone. So for the most part, you see what I'm doing. Again, I think I need to bring this down a little bit further. The smoke will drop quite a bit further back, but I wanted to get the idea of it in there for me. It lets me ruminate on it and think on it so that I can just, eventually come up with what I want. These fingers here won't be as high because this is the middle finger, so it's going to be further higher than this finger, so I'll probably cut it back a bit, maybe to here, something like that. I'll think on it. And finally, the background. The background, I'm thinking some sort of stone castle or gate, or I don't know, some sort of stone edifice of some such. I liked the idea of a battlements and him sitting on top of the battlements, because I remember in certain, well, in this regard, you could see him on the battlements overlooking, some war coming forward or coming to the gates. Or then again, I could throw him in a hobbit house, but, or even, as a wilderness scene. But the problem, as you can see, is I really don't have a lot of work, of area to work with. This carving is pretty much all this guy. So I have to determine, he's so far forward, you see so much of him that anything behind him would probably be pretty far away. So I don't know yet, but something will come to me and I'll make it look good to the best of my ability. All right, so there we are, Arch-Mage, and I will keep going.